Take this further with Arwa Damon, President and Founder of INARA, a non-profit organisation that provides essential medical and mental health support to children affected by human-induced and natural disasters. She joins me live in studio. Thanks so much for being with us, Arwa. So, as we're hearing from Ashraf there's a ceasefire on paper, yet people are still living in constant fear of what's going to happen next, Israeli violations daily. What is the reality for people on the ground?
Look, I was talking to INARA's program coordinator the other day, and she had just gone to visit one of the makeshift educational tents that we support. And let's keep in mind that when we're talking about these makeshift educational spaces, it's a tent. There's no desks. The kids are sitting on the freezing cold floor. They have to walk extensively far distances amid all of the rubble just to get to school. And oftentimes the tents flood and they get shut down, and they're hungry and they're cold. And so Yusra was asking them, why do you bother coming? And this was a group of girls. They were in the 7th grade. And one of them stood up and said, I keep coming because when this is over, I will make my dreams come true. And this led to a conversation amongst all of them about how the war wasn't over yet. Anyone who you speak to in Gaza will tell you it's not over. And there was so much hope to a certain degree. And hope is a very cruel emotion, especially when it's crushed. But there was a lot of hope with this talk of the reopening of Rafah, and that things were finally going to begin to, maybe not drastically change, but at least start moving in a slightly more positive direction. And that hasn't materialized yet.
And in terms of humanitarian access, have there been any changes there in terms of food, water, medical supplies?
I mean, very little. And let's also keep in mind that anything that we talk about when it comes to Gaza, the baseline is 0. And so anything that is better than 0 is something. But that doesn't mean that it should be the accepted norm, or that we should be talking about conditions improving, because the baseline is so horrifically low. So yes, some more foodstuffs is getting in. You can go to the market and you can buy your kid, assuming you have money, plenty of chips and soda and chocolate. But if you want to properly feed your child, if you want to find a source of nutrition, you probably can't afford the frozen chicken or meat that only shows up occasionally. If you need medications for your child, for yourself, for your elderly parents, you're going to struggle to find those. If you want that guarantee that so many parents enjoy, that when their child leaves the home, they are going to come back at night, they are going to be able to hug them, the people in Gaza still don't have that guarantee. They still don't have clean drinking water. There's all this talk about the flooding that happens in the rains. That's not just rainwater that floods. That's actual sewage, because for more than 2 years, people have had to dig holes to use as toilets. There's extraordinary, widespread diseases that are ravaging the population. And let's keep in mind that something as basic as diarrhea, that's the #1 killer for children under the age of 5 worldwide.
You mentioned hope, and of course that's been the only thing people have been able to cling to since the war began. When Rafah crossing was said to be partially reopened, there was a lot of hope that would bring change. We're seeing just a trickle of people coming in and out. Our correspondent on the ground says that it's more of a symbolic reopening. Is that an appraisal you would agree with?
100%. Anyone who you talk to will tell you it's just performative. It's Netanyahu wanting to appease Trump to show the Americans that, they're doing something. It's been described to me as a media stunt. If we look at it just in terms of the numbers, even with the best case scenario that Israel agreed to but hasn't actually implemented, of allowing 50 people off the medical list to leave daily, if you look at how many are on the medical list, almost 20,000, we're talking about more than a year to get all of those who need life-saving medical treatment out of Gaza. It's absurd. And let's also keep in mind that when we talk about this medical evacuation list, it's not like you go somewhere and you sign up. You're on that list because you have an injury or an illness that is either going to cost you your life or is going to leave you with a permanent disability. In a span of 7 months last year, more than 1,000 people died just because they were waiting for medical evacuation. And the thing is when we talk about medical evacuations too, it's not just Israel. There's a burden on other countries, and they have continuously failed because they too have not been stepping forward and saying, we will take medical evacuations, we will take medical cases and treat them.
On that, I want to ask you about what can be done here. We've just been reporting about Netanyahu, who's going to the States because he's confident he can influence Iran's negotiations with the US. He is able to act with impunity and has been able to for so long. What is going to change that?
And he's been able to do that under both administrations, right? The Biden administration and the Trump administration right now. You know, when we look at it, it's very clear that only America has the power and the ability to alter Israel's positions on this. And so global leaders who want to actually implement some sort of a change need to think about what they can do to put pressure on the United States. And that's going to take a level of unity and of moral courage that we have yet to see exhibited by any leader who is out there. As long as countries keep thinking about what is going to be in their own interests versus what is actually in the interest of humanity and who we want to be as a species going forward, nothing is going to change. Because this isn't just about Gaza or Palestine. This is about the example that is being set for others who have the same sort of nefarious intentions, and what happens when we completely shatter international law, humanitarian access, and are allowed to carry out war crimes with complete and total impunity. That is going to mean something for all of us.
Arwa Damon, President and Founder of INARA, non-profit organisation for children affected by human-induced and natural disasters. Thank you so much.